What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the channel. For those of you that are new here, my name is Josh, and I talk about mental health, navigating life, and just trying to become the ultimate versions of ourselves. For those of you who have been following along with me, thank you for sticking in there with me. I know it's been a while. I think over like a month and a half since I've posted a video. So I wanted to check in. I wanted to kind of give some updates of what's been going on in my life. There's no real central theme to this video. We'll just kind of see where things go with it. So what's changed since I posted my last video? Some really good things and some not good things. But I try to do my best to be transparent with you all and provide as much honesty as I'm comfortable giving you. So that's what I'm here to do. So things have been kind of busy, which has contributed to the lack of uploads. My wife and I went to Cancun for vacation after the spring semester ended. That was really necessary. It was much needed. We don't go on vacations a lot, so when we do go, we go for like at minimum a week. That's typically the longest we'll go for. The last big vacation we had gone on was to Greece for a wedding, and that was like a week, maybe week and change, and that was a few years ago. So we've gone to Cancun a few times. We went this time about a month ago. We went to Atelier, all-inclusive resort in Playa Mujeres, and it was awesome. If you're thinking about going to Cancun and you're kind of looking for an adults-only all-inclusive resort, it is a little more expensive, but in our opinion, it was worth every penny. The food was incredible. It was super relaxed. It was calm. We had a really great time. So that's some of the good. Some of the other things, I have been treating my body really well. I've been working out a lot. I've talked a lot in some of my videos about how important I think it is for us as individuals, for our mental health and obviously our physical health, to just be active, finding something to do that we enjoy, that gets us moving. When I was at the worst moments in my life, I was really sedentary. And, a lot of us live sedentary lifestyles, whether that's because of work or, we have a physical limitation, whatever the case may be, we're stay-at-home parents. So it's important, I think, to find something to keep you moving. I have been much more active in the gym. Oh, also, I had gallbladder surgery. I was dealing with just really random stomach issues for a long time, like pain, really bad pain that would come and go just randomly throughout the year. Very sporadic. So I had my gallbladder removed before we went to Cancun. That was another thing. That took me out of the gym for about a month, which sucked because I was really kind of at a point where I was in a groove with lifting and being consistent. And I know myself that when I kind of get out of a routine, it's hard for me to get back into it. And what I was able to prove to myself was being in a routine physically, going on vacation and coming back, I was able to jump back into it. It was really important for me to get back to a place physically where I was, happy with how I was feeling and how I was looking, and I was feeling confident. So obviously it helps that we have the privilege and the luxury of having a gym in our garage that we've built out and we used a lift. That was really important to us. So I guess, the takeaways is if, just do something, get on a walk, go for a bike ride. I bought a bicycle off Facebook Marketplace, so I've been riding a lot more. Just trying to get back into doing other things for myself. So that's some of the good stuff. I'm still in school. Summer semester started. If you watch some of my other videos, I was supposed to be in an internship or a practicum this summer, and that fell through. And that was my fault. I fucked that up. So here's the not so good. School is still on track. I'm still on track to graduate. If you watch my older stuff, I have been sober from alcohol for over 3 years now. May 18th was my 3-year sobriety from alcohol. And I was dealing and struggling. I won't even say struggling. I had a unhealthy relationship with weed, as sort of a supplement to my alcohol use, or a fill-in. And, long story short, I used marijuana habitually for probably like 2.5 years straight, like nightly. And it was a necessary thing early on with my mental health. It was really a crutch I used, a necessary crutch. And through therapy and just processing life and, developing skill sets and just coping and learning how to deal with life, I started to realize, like, I don't need weed in my life anymore. Not on a nightly basis. It wasn't a detriment to my life. It wasn't causing issues, but I was realizing I had an unhealthy relationship with it. And I allowed it to continue because it had such an emotional impact in getting me to a better place in life that I was kind of worried if I let go of it, I might kind of fall back into a negative headspace. So it was really uncomfortable and hard to let go of because it wasn't impairing my life in a negative way, outside of like not being able to drive if I was out smoking, but like if I was drinking, I wouldn't drive, like besides those things, it wasn't an impairment. I was still waking up and doing things. I was doing chores around the house. I was contributing to bills. I was doing my schoolwork. So a lot of people would think like, well, if it's not impairing you in that way, if it's not negatively affecting you, why did you feel the need to give it up? Well, because it was habitual. Every night around 5 or 6 p.m., I would get blazed out of my mind. My tolerance was super high, so it would take me more use to get high to a place that like I was high, or it would take a stronger substance to get me high. And it just was unhealthy. It was, if I went out, I was getting high. Every scenario was, can I get high? But I would excuse it because it wasn't having a negative impact like I would see with alcohol, or something like that. But it got to the point where I was like, it felt like it was holding me back from being the ultimate version of myself. And I that's one of the things that like I open up with the videos is like, how can we become the ultimate versions of ourselves? And I slowly realized like I don't think I'm ever going to know what the ultimate version of myself is, and always striving for that ultimate version can kind of hold us back, because what does that look like? Like, who measures that? I guess we do. Our own individual selves measure that. But if you don't really know what that ultimately looks like, I guess maybe it could be a feeling. But even if you reach that and you don't know that you're already there, you're constantly going to be pushing yourself to improve in some way. And maybe that means cutting something else out of your life that you feel is holding you back, even if it's not negatively impacting you in a certain way. So I felt like I had to kind of, I didn't let go of weed because it was negatively impacting my life. I let go of it because it was becoming ritualistic. It was a nightly thing, and what it was negatively impacting was, it was affecting my ability to recall conversations. It had an impact on my sexual life. I always say, like, if you've ever had sex high, I guess it varies person to person, but like, it's wild. Uh, and not that sober sex isn't good, but like, once you've had that and it becomes a part of a routine, it's I don't think it's good for your mental health. I don't think it's good for our psyche. So it was important for me to be like, okay, can I cut this out? I've proven to myself that I can cut alcohol out, but I did that because it was a drastic measure that needed to be taken. The the circumstances aren't as heightened right now, but can I still do it? Or do things always have to hit rock bottom for Josh to make a change? And I think I was able to prove that I was able to make a change. Now, long story long, here's where I fucked up. 420 came around, and I was about 3 to 4 months off of not smoking weed, or 3 to 4 months of not smoking weed. And 420 came around, and I was like, I want to celebrate. I think I've proven to myself that I clearly don't need this. I haven't done it. I haven't had any cravings for it. If I would smell it, like I would go on a walk and smell it, or if you're driving and, there's a car around you that you can tell has it, sure, you're like, that would be great. But there was no like physical cravings for it. I wasn't yearning for it. I wasn't seeking it out. It was more of like, that would be fun to just give the mind a break, So I gave myself that grace. I gave myself kind of that hall pass. And I went to the store, and the plan was to buy pre-rolls and, buy the pre-rolls. That way, when I ran out, and it wasn't there to continue having it. And of course, the store I went to, their shipment of pre-rolls got pulled over, stopped, and they didn't have any pre-rolls in stock. They only had cartridges and vape pens and edibles. So I was like, all right, I'll get a vape pen. And of course, a one day or a weekend little bender turned into a week-long use. And my internship was coming up, and I neglected to read the fine print. And I think partially, I'm not going to blame them. It was I fully hold myself accountable. I wish they would have maybe communicated earlier on in the interview process that there would be a drug screening. And I should know better, right? I should know that there's probably going to be a drug screening, especially because it was going to be at a addictions place. And when they called, I was going on vacation a week before my internship started, and I had told them that. I said, listen, I'm going to have to delay the start date just a week because we already have these plans, and they were fine with that. 2 days before we were supposed to fly out for vacation, their HR department called and said, hey, can you come in next week to do a drug screening and fill out paperwork and all that? And I said, no, like, I'm going to be on vacation, and they said, well, can you come in today or tomorrow? Can you do it? And I said, no. And I was transparent. I said, listen, like, is marijuana going to be a problem? And they called me back and said, like, yeah, we can't move forward with you. And I freaked. I'm not going to lie. I was super upset with myself. Part of me was really angry with them. I think it was defensive, like, why didn't you tell me earlier? Why didn't I get the screening earlier? But ultimately, like, hey man, I'm 34. I should know better now, I fucked up. I made a decision. I think part of me thought that obviously I understand you're working with people with addictions, but there was a part of me that was thinking like, well, they're not there to judge people with addictions. They're there to help people work through their addictions. This isn't something that's going to be stigmatized, but for insurance reasons, I guess they drug screen their employees. And that was a learning lesson. And I talked with my faculty and we're working through it. Again, that location didn't work out. That's on me. I just take it as sort of a sign and a learning lesson that like that's not the path that was meant to be taken. No ill will towards that place. I'm working with my faculty to find a new location for the fall semester. And, according to like the program structure, most people start their practicums in the fall. So I'm really like on schedule now. If I had started in the summer, I was really just ahead of schedule. Now I'm just kind of on schedule. So I was upset with myself. There was a lot of stress, especially because I was going on vacation. I wasn't going to have access to my laptop. I was unsure if I was going to have to drop my practicum class while I was on vacation. The semester was starting. But everything worked out. I was able to communicate with my professor. I just had a meeting with them last week, and it sounds like there might be an opportunity for me to start at another site. We're just working through some logistics and stuff. So that was some of the not good. And, I think it's important for me to tell that because it's an example of how life just, I talk about how growth and progress is never linear, and life isn't linear. And I think a few years ago, when I wasn't in my good place, that would have been an instance of a catastrophic event that would have led to me burning bridges and sending an email that I would have regretted or dropping out of the program, But through the progress I've made in life and through learning and understanding that you're going to have speed bumps in life, I just trust that my faculty is going to support me. This is still the path I'm supposed to be on, and it's not the end of the road. And I've trusted that, and I still believe that things are going to work out. And there's an anxiousness about, I want to get a site. I want to have that confirmation that I'm good, but I don't feel the need to end things, So that's kind of where things have been at. I'm actively in 2 classes right now. I'm just not in my practicum. Ironically enough, I'm in an addictions class. And then in July, I start a dual diagnosis class, which focuses on the comorbidity between substance uses and mental health disorders and how they kind of work together. So I'm really interested in that. That's my elective class. So that's kind of where I'm at. Outside of that, life is really good. I always say like I could complain, but what's the point? Like this is the journey that I'm on. I'm still projected to graduate next spring. And I'm really thankful for that. What else is new? I had some cousins in town this weekend. And we got dinner with them, and that was great to kind of catch up with some family that I haven't seen in over a decade. So yeah, I think life is, this experience of this fall through really kind of has me reflecting sometimes on how slowly growth happens, and in the world we live in today, where we're always so quickly looking for that high, that quick satisfaction, whether that's through social media or through substances or, gratification. It's like we're looking for that quick answer. And it reminds me that, like, this process for me took years. And I think for anyone watching this who's had kind of a life altering experience, or they've experienced positive change, like it takes a really long time. And I have people in my life who are going through things that I see, and I think sometimes they're hoping that the changes that they're looking for in their life are just going to happen. And unfortunately, I've learned, and I can expect for them, that that's not going to be the answer. And I think that that's really hard for people my age who are going through significant life changes, whether that's with relationships in their life or relationships within themselves, is understanding that, like, in order to create, I think, positive change and growth towards a new direction, like, it takes patience, but it takes some selfishness, where you really have to put yourself first in ways that make you uncomfortable and might ultimately make other people uncomfortable. You really have to take strides and steps that are uncharacteristic to who you are, and allow you to push yourself in ways that you're not used to. It's sort of like if you're exercising or you're practicing a sport and you're trying to do something that you're not used to, or it's a new task or a new lift, or it's a new swing in baseball, or you're practicing a new jump shot. You're used to a certain way, and now you're trying a new way that you're probably not going to be very good at, and it forces you to constantly practice that and adapt and work and hone that skill. And I think a lot of times we as individuals, when it comes to our own personal growth and our mental health, we just think that things are going to happen and we're just going to figure it out and it's going to work. And unfortunately, I don't think that that's the case. I think it takes sometimes a lifetime of just constant, slowly etching that out and growing and repeating that process until it becomes more natural to us. So yeah, I appreciate you stopping by and listening. That's where I'm at with life. I'm not going to make any promises on videos, but I am going to hopefully try and think of some topics. If there's anything you guys want to hear me talk about, or things that are on your mind, please feel free to leave a comment below, and let me know what you think of the video. All the support helps. Feel free to leave a like and obviously subscribe. Those of you who are new, thank you for the continued or the new support. And those of you who have been following my journey, thank you for sticking around. Again, I'm sorry for the absence, but life happens. And sometimes we just have to enjoy life and what's being thrown at us. And we get to these things when we can. So thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.